Hey everyone, welcome back today to Berlin Noir. And today in this episode, we are going to be working on this very large Railyard, which sits right at the entrance of the Lehrter Bahnhof, which we built a couple episodes ago. So, if you enjoy trains, Railyards, anything of that kind, then I'm sure you are going to enjoy this episode since it is entirely this Railyard that we are building. But anyways, yeah, let's get into today's episode. So this is the first Railyard in the city that I am building personally. The other Railyard in the city, which is the one that sits on the opposite side of the canal of the Anhalter Bahnhof and Potsdamer Bahnhof, that one was built in a guest build by Ping Yao, and I'll link that build in the description as well as pop a little card up here in the top right. So if you're new to the channel or you happen to miss it and you like trains and you like this type of video, then go ahead and check that out, and you'll see two different strategies, two different types of building, and seeing compare the similarities and differences, because I did definitely take some inspiration from his build and how he built it in his video. And yeah, so that always helps when you have something to go off of a little bit in your own city. But anyways, so here are the train yards for this Railyard. There were actually three. I only built two because they're pretty large and they do take up a significant amount of space. The other one, the third one, was close to the ship canal, which is towards the right there on the top of the screen. It was a smaller one, and I just decided to leave it out. But anyways, yeah, so those are the train sheds. Of course, very useful and necessary in any Railyard. And I cut out the laying of the tracks in front of each train shed, since it took me a very long time. I just covered up this little thing here because on first inspection, just looking at it, I thought those train tracks were too small and narrow on that asset, but lining them up, they're evidently the exact same size, but I thought it still looked better having the nicer asset or nicer rail networks on the little turntable there. But anyways, yeah, there you can see we jump forward, and I leave out the plopping the tracks, trying to line them up, which took this video was, it's already 27 and a half minutes including the cinematics. It's a pretty lengthy video, but I had to cut out a decent amount of things, and that was one of them, because we would have been pushing 35 plus minutes if I had included some of this stuff. But yeah, that's very tedious, very monotonous, something that I don't think would have been very fun to watch. But another thing I did cut out in the video, which I built, well, if I had left it in, it would have been in a couple minutes, but it was the old Hamburger Bahnhof. So initially I built it on camera, and I had it in this video, and I just did not like how it turned out whatsoever. I used the Malmo. I feel like I'm saying that wrong, and I'm probably switching up some letters, but it's based on, I believe, a Swedish train station, which I use. It's a modular pack for the station, and I've used a couple of those buildings elsewhere, including for the Potsdamer Bahnhof earlier on in the series. But yeah, I use the main station part of that pack, and I used PO to reduce the number of rails or rail lines to only just 2 tracks in there. But yeah, it just didn't look right, so I ended up going off camera and trying to figure out which assets to use. And the reason I didn't record it was simply because it took several tries, and I just was like, all right, I don't want to have to keep recording this and then going through cutting out what I need and don't need. So I've actually just after several tries, I landed on something that actually looks much more like the old Hamburger Bahnhof, which you will see in the cinematics, but also you'll see a little later in the actual video part, because I do build around that part. So you'll see, glimpses of it. But yeah, one of you several episodes ago said I should build a Hamburger Bahnhof, and then last week when I mentioned that that's probably what I'm going to be doing this week, you mentioned that at this point in history it was no longer a actually functioning passenger train station, which looking it up afterwards, evidently it was used as a railway from 1906, and then from sorry, I'm confusing my dates. It was used as initially when it was first built, it was a passenger train station up until 1906, which at that point it became actually a train museum, which is actually pretty cool. That's I mean, when I think about history museums and Railyard museums that we go to, modern day, of course they all feature trains and engines from partially this time period. So thinking about what they would have included in a museum all the way back then, like how old the technology was, just something cool, because all those all those things that would have been featured in a museum all the way back then, those things probably those exhibits are probably long past. But anyways, of course, nowadays, those of you familiar with the Hamburger Bahnhof, it is actually an art museum, which I do believe it had to be rebuilt partly, of course, after World War II. But yeah, it functions as a art museum, which, repurposing an old historic train station, I think that's a great idea. Because I know when I was building the Anhalter Bahnhof, pretty early into the start of this series, learning it was pretty sad how they actually decided to, destroy the old train station rather than rebuild it and repurpose it as perhaps a museum or something else. And I know that was by many people, there was a bit of an outrage by some, because it was definitely a very important rail yard to the history of Berlin. But I do know they left the very front of the train station, just that very small entrance part. They do have that still in Berlin, which is, certainly cool. One day when I make my way over there to Berlin, I, of course, that's going to be one of my stops along the way, as well as many things, because, that's, from American perspective, and having, so meticulously just looked at maps and images of a single city for so long, I mean, I can't help but become very interested in Berlin, and I really, really want to go there. Had plans with some friends to go to Europe this summer, but we were pushing that off, as well as my one friend has an internship that was pushed off since he was supposed to go last summer, but that didn't work out. But anyways, I digress, kind of off topic there. But yeah, in the very top right corner there of the video, you can see that is in fact the Hamburger Bahnhof, the version that I decided to go with. I mean, looking at the aerial view I have of this time, I think it matches it the best. Looks, half decent actually. I used a elevated train station. So the main part there's a pretty decent view of it. So that main part there that we're looking at, not the open part in the middle, but the main part of the station, that's actually an elevated railway station, which I just converted to PO and then sunk it into the ground. And then I just closed the roof using PO. And then I plopped that building there in the front, which, I mean, is close enough to what actually existed back then. It's when you're making custom rail stations or train stations, it's pretty much impossible to actually get the perfect assets for these historical stations. Of course, unless, the Anhalter Bahnhof, that asset already existed on the workshop, but all the other ones, of course, I have to build myself using PO and other, buildings as well. But so, yeah, as you can see, a decent part of the episode was just laying the tracks. Prior to me actually recording, I took a decent amount of time really trying to, figure out, okay, looking at the map, the aerial view that I have, trying to figure out, where all the tracks went, and just trying to then convert what I'm seeing in the aerial view to what I actually have on my map. Because of course, while the area is similar, of course have the ship canal there and some bridges and the Leiter Bahnhof, the area is still nonetheless a different shape. And, the real life rail yard that existed back then is fairly long and more narrow than what I made it. I think I made it a little more wider, the actual rail yard, but yeah, that's just, nothing, not a big deal at all. But one thing that when I was building this, I totally forgot, the puddle mud decals that I just placed. Those decals have been some of my favorites in like past cities that I've built on my own, before my YouTube channel. And they work great for like off-road dirt roads, stuff like that. I believe all the way back with Strict Toaster's Sinu, that series he had a very long time ago. He created a dirt road network with those decals, which looked pretty cool. But rather than using this mud, puddle decal as part of the actual dirt road, I figured I could put it in areas, perhaps where, there might be a slight depression in the elevation, in the ground, and, places where water could, pile up a bit. And I'm definitely going to be having to use those decals much more in the future. I just, usually when I'm building stuff, I just search, right there, I searched in mud. But I usually search like stain decal, damage decal, wear decal, rather than having to scroll through all my subscribed decals. And, this one time I actually happened to go through what I was actually subscribed to, which I should definitely do more often. Look through all the decals, and that's how I found it. And I was like, dang, I've been missing. Can't believe I haven't been using this for so long. But now that I know it, that's definitely a very nice decal. I believe by Ronix, which has been out for some time now. But yeah, it's definitely a very nice decal. But anyways, so one thing I do want to ask all you guys is, when you think, or I guess for you personally, when would you prefer I upload my videos? So if you don't mind, comment, like, if it's a Saturday morning, Saturday evening, Friday evening, or perhaps, in the middle of the week, say you like videos on a Wednesday. So let me know, what you prefer. And also let me know where you're from, because of course if you say Saturday morning and you happen to be from the US, and then someone else says Saturday morning and they happen to be from Germany, that's very different upload times. So let me know where you are from and when you prefer video uploads, because I'm going to release this episode on a Saturday morning rather than my usual Friday morning. Just, trying something else out. Yeah, I know a lot of videos by other YouTubers, aside even from City Skylines, upload their videos on Friday or Saturday. I mean, that's a pretty popular upload time. Everyone's off for the most part, so people have free time to watch videos. So that's one reason why I haven't uploaded my videos on Saturday, because I figured there's already oversaturation of videos on Saturday, so I figured Friday was a little bit better. But yeah, let me know what you think, what day and time, and also where you are from, and I'll see what you all think and what you all say, and then I'll try my best to figure out a good upload schedule for you all. But anyways, so this area here, I'm just dividing up. I guess looking at the aerial view, this is what I'm basing it on. I'm just assuming these are small little private properties where a train would roll up with, for instance here, coal, whatever this building would be here, and, just little segments and portions of land. It looked interesting, but yeah, just divvying it up and try my best to not make each section look too similar. So one also thing with how I developed this area, the terrain difference is kind of not ideal how I actually went about it. So I believe in real life, this rail yard that led to the Leiter Bahnhof would have been submerged, not, submerged, not underground, but just, not at ground level, however many meters below ground level, just so bridges and stuff wouldn't actually have to gain elevation to go over the railways. They could just mostly go straight since the railways would be beneath them. But the way I did it is, so because of just the way networks work in this game, and if you have connections between two networks at different elevations, you get nasty like curves, and just the connection just does not look good whatsoever. So rather than like lowering the railway networks into the ground more, I just barely ever so slightly did it, maybe by a meter or two, in game, and then I just raised the elevation around it. So the roads on one, so I guess the road and elevation on this side where the boat canal is, that's pretty much the same. But on the opposite side, where I don't think you've really seen yet in the video, but that side I've raised up a decent amount. So that'll be a future problem, trying to work that elevation, that heightened elevation back down to ground level. Probably won't be too big of an issue, because I believe in that area there's some sort of park, maybe school. It's hard to tell exactly. I believe back then it was simply just a park, because looking at the aerial view in black and white, I definitely see some football fields, or soccer for all my American friends, and looks like tennis courts, and just a lot of open green areas as well. So that's a big area that I'll probably, since it's just a big park, I should be able to make up that terrain difference and lower it, and cover a lot with trees and stuff like that. But so hopefully that'll work out all right. But that'll be like I said, a later issue for me. But anyways, another thing that I wanted to ask you guys is what you think I should build next, because it's not that I'm running out of ideas or motivation, because I'm actually quite motivated. I'm still really getting into building the city. It's just there's a lot still to be built, and I can't really, nothing's really standing out as something I really want to build. There's just a lot of things I'm like, yeah, I should probably do that. Yeah, I should probably do that. But like, I just can't really identify something that I really want to build or something that'd be really cool. So let me know what you guys think I should build next. I mean, I've considered filling in the area around Alexanderplatz that we haven't built yet. There's still a lot of open area there. I've considered filling out the areas in Schöneberg, which that was built several weeks or more like a couple months ago. So there's a lot of still empty spaces to be filled in. But again, like I said, nothing's just like calling my name saying build me. So I'm going to leave it up to you guys. Let me know what you want to see, and if there's a consensus or if someone gives me a really cool idea, I'll go ahead and probably do that in the next episode or the one after that. We'll see exactly, because like I mentioned in the previous episode, I have a mini-series that I'm in the very early stages of doing. I'm still gathering assets and kind of planning stuff out. So that's going to be, I'll start that once I kind of run out of motivation and ideas in Berlin Noir. But like I said, I'm not really at that point yet. So let me know what you want to see, and I will try and build it as soon as I can. But yeah, so I guess back to what we're doing here on screen. Mostly just filling in the gaps between the painted or the gravel, paint, using the mod. I could have easily, of course, just used the mod to just paint the entire ground with the gravel, but of course, that leaves just one solid texture for the most part. I mean, you saw me earlier lay a ton of a single decal down, which I cut out all the other times I laid. I probably used, I think, 3 different types of decals, where I just totally just spammed it across the entire Railyard just about. And so I showed you one of those, and then I did it twice more with 2 different decals after that, just to, try and change up the texture. But another thing I did was, I don't remember if it was the ore or the oil texture. I think it was the oil texture that I changed. So that green like texture there, that light green at the very top of the screen, kind of above that tree there. Well, now we're moving on, but there's like little pebbles in that texture, which I wasn't using that before. So I, painted half of or I used the resource, just paintbrush to basically just go over the area with both ore and oil. And the ore is the more brown color there that we're looking at right there straight ahead. And then to the left of the screen there, which is a little lighter green, that is the oil texture that is brand new. And I really like that because, like I said, there's a lot of, small detailed little textures within that, within the ore. But yeah, so that obviously looks much better than just simply carving the entire area with gravel. Because I did reference Pingyalo's Railyard that he, on the other side of the city, just see how he did it, get some ideas. But yeah, like I said earlier, it's nice to have something in your center that you can reference for more ideas, and if you're kind of hitting a roadblock or anything. But so here I just laid out these train cars just in a line, just so I didn't have to, for a simple, for the viewing pleasure of all you guys, I didn't want to have to constantly be scrolling through my Find It to look for all these rail cars. But so with this particular one on screen currently that I'm messing with, this is actually, we'll see, hopefully we get a good view on the side, but it's actually a passenger rail car. It says Keystone on it. It's part of a American passenger train vehicle, and I have the mod that converts all vehicles and trees and stuff to props. So what I did was I took that, and the actual asset for the passenger train is probably about twice as long as what you're seeing on screen. So I found the train car that probably is either maybe a dining car, or maybe it's for like where people would store their what they're carrying along with them on the train, because there was only two small windows on it, so it looked a tad bit like a freight car rather than a passenger train. So I just used PO to shrink it down probably about half the size to make it kind of look like a box car more or less, since there are no box cars that match this era, which I'm gonna try my best to, I've been watching a City Walk City Walls tutorial on the City Skylines page for making your own assets, and there's still 2 more videos that he's going to release on that. And it's it's so cool that City Skylines is finally had someone simply teach all of us how to make assets, because there's tutorials and stuff online you can watch, but there's nothing specific to City Skylines, and it's nice knowing and watching someone who actually, is in the same boat as all of us, who wants assets, it's not available in the workshop, and they want to try and get into asset creation. And that's more or less the story City Walk said was the case when he started it. But yeah, so once he finishes that, and, he's learned how to make my own assets, I'm going to try my best to make a freight car based on, this time period, so I'll be able to replace this one here. But for the time being, this is what we're going to unfortunately have to use. It's not terrible. Like from a distance, it actually honestly does look like a freight car. It's about the same size, and like I said, there's no windows like it's a passenger train on the side. So in the cinematics, you'll see that, yeah, it's not ideal, since I do get some, slower up close views of it. So yeah, it's not ideal, but for the time being, there's certainly nothing wrong with it. I think it's the best option we have. But yeah, so here again is the Hamburger Bahnhof that I built off screen. Just, I imagine those are part of the museum exhibits, I guess. I'm not really sure, because on the aerial view that I had of the city and the train station there was just rows of trains lined up in the open section of the train station there. But anyways, yeah, so the remainder of this episode is just plopping down these trains just, making everything look good, because obviously you can't have a rail yard without these trains and the freight cars. But anyways, so yeah, we're getting close to the end of the episode. I want to thank personally my first few Patreons who have come on and supported me. You guys rock. Access to the save games, early access, Discord chat, everything. So if you're interested in any of that, check out my Patreon account, and you can get your name in the end credits, such as the two that will have their names now that they have come on and supported me on Patreon. But anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this episode. Let me know what your thoughts for the next episode, what you want to see built, and I'll try my best to do that. And yeah, I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all next time.